You like to get in the weeds. You'll talk to people, you'll fact find, you can kind of somehow stay ahead of recruiting, who's coming, who's going. Is this Do you enjoy this because of your skill sets, or are you like, man, can we figure out these rules so we could get a little more consistency to the comings and goings?
Yeah, I mean, I'd like a little more clarity. It would help. But no, I don't mind where we're at right now. I think this is a fun, like, this is my favorite part of the recruiting cycle almost every year because it's like it's the fact finding, like it's what separates people, like even I'm like learning things daily. Like there's guys coming on campus and I'm like, oh, I really like where Nebraska stands, and then they'll get off campus and I don't really hear from them, or I talk to them and it's like, oh, well, the tone's a little different coming out of that visit. That's weird. And so it's like, oh, well, I guess things are moving in a different direction, or vice versa, where it's like, hey, guys come on campus, I don't know where Nebraska stands going in, they come out of the visit, and it's like Kennedy Brown last week, and he's like, what's in Nebraska? And then he's like, oh, goodness gracious, this place is amazing. And so you get both sides of it. But the biggest part is like right now, I think this is what separates um this is the separation season, I guess, is where like top targets start to really emerge. Where, okay, hey, these guys are like down the line potential options for Nebraska, but this is the point where, okay, going into the summer, we have a good idea of who the top 26 targets are and who they're not. But this year is a little different because when you look at for example, I'm probably going to write something on this here soon, but Nebraska's got a bit of an in-state conundrum right now. They have 3 in-state offers out,
Huh?
2 are committable, arguably one. You can make the argument only one is committable at this point.
Uh-oh,
And
talk to me. Walk me through this here, Tim, old perceptive one.
it's like, okay, if I'm Nebraska and I evaluate if the 105 man roster limit isn't on me right now, Darian Jones probably already has an offer. You and I have we've talked about this. Darian Jones probably
Yeah,
already.
he's racking them up. I mean, he's got
Oh
Wisconsin, he's
yeah,
got Iowa, I mean,
yeah.
there's a lot of folks in the Minnesota. There's a lot of folks in the neighborhood that have offered.
Yeah, I mean, I'd watch that Iowa offer. That thing could move quickly. Hey, there's some mutual love there, and again,
Listen,
that would sting. That would sting.
listen, TV. I mean, for his family to have a son that plays at Nebraska, for me, was an utter shock. We're talking about a family that has Iowa flags and Iowa rocks in their neighborhood. His dad is a Hawkeye through and through.
Mm.
I think Donovan is lucky he loves his son more than he loves his school, because the Hawkeyes and Park, and it's not really going to be Parker, but Coach Woods and those guys, they will do their due diligence. They don't offer just to be offering. They'll make it tough.
Right. Oh yeah, absolutely. And so I'm very interested to see how that continues to develop. Minnesota's quietly putting together a good DB class. So it's just weird. Like I'm evaluating this 26 cycle, and you zoom out a little bit, and you're like, well, okay, the region was something they were really focused on. We talked a lot about locking down the region, and now you look up at South Dakota and Hudson Parliament's off to Iowa. There's no real clarity on what's happening with Devion Bonwell Whitty right now. I don't think he's going to end up in the class when it's all said and done. Then you look across to Iowa, and it's like, well, I don't know if they're going to land Jaden McGregory. I think they really pulled out of that recruitment. To Again, they didn't have to do that, but they chose to kind of pull themselves out of that recruitment. And then you look in state, and it's like, okay, well, they may end up with Isaac Jensen and maybe Jace
So
Reynolds.
and he's at Notre Dame right now.
Right. And he's taking a national tour. Like he's doing the same, not the same thing, but like talking to him, it sounds like what talking to Chase Lofton did around this time last year, where it's like, okay, I think this guy's going to actually explore national options. And if there's the right opportunity outside of state borders, I think he's going to take it.
So give me the offers versus committable.
The offers right now are Isaac Jensen,
Yeah.
Deshaun Prince,
Mm-hmm.
Jace Reynolds. I don't Deshaun Prince's I don't think is committable anymore. I think both sides have moved on. I think there's other factors that play there, and there's just things to work through. I'm starting to maybe get to that point with Jensen too, just because of how other recruitments are popping up and how you see how other recruitments are kind of popping up around the state. And you talk to Jason, you talk to and just like I think there's still a spot for him at this point, but I mean, I also see Rob Dvorak expanding this linebacker board and building up this type of class where, okay, hey, let's say they do somehow flip Jordan Campbell. Let's say they land Kason Thomas. Like, I think Kason Thomas is higher on the board priority wise than Jace Reynolds. Like, as much as I think they'd like to keep Jace Reynolds in town and they made that early offer for a reason, I wonder if you were to ask them and like put a truth serum in them and take them back like a year ago, if they could make an additional in-state offer besides Isaac Jensen in the summer, it maybe goes to Darian Jones.
Mm.
Mm. So
you clearly think you think DJ will get offered before Braylon Warren.
I think so, but I think Warren. I think Warren maybe. I think Warren has a little more time because he's a 27. Like, but I think he probably deserves an offer. But Nebraska's also put themselves in a position 27 wise where, okay, hey, they're going to be like a hat on the table and probably one of the top 3 for Trey Taylor in June. And if they don't get Trey Taylor, I mean, they blew Keegan Croucher away this past weekend, another 4-star quarterback in that 27th cycle out of Cheshire Academy. I think at this point, I think Darian Jones. I think here's where I sit with it. I think both those guys at this point probably have to camp in Nebraska this summer to get that offer, which is weird. If I was Nebraska, I would have already have that offer out to Darian Jones, but I understand wanting to see it in person and all of that. But if you see Donovan Jones, you see what he's doing in practice, and you're like, hey, he's got a younger brother that's bigger, taller, faster, stronger, further along from a football standpoint than Donovan was at the same time, I'm offering that kid 10 times out of 10.
Mm. Tim, if I'm sitting here as a Nebraska fan and I'm looking at their 26 class and I'm going, not a lot of names in that group yet. Do I have reason to be nervous? I see a lot of positive things seem to be happening. People love their visits and they love coming here, and you got a lot of guys coming in and out. Don't have a lot of public commits. Like,
You probably got to start with Titan Davis, right?
when does that ball start to roll a little bit more?
Or no?
I mean, Titan Davis is the priority number one. I think he's the most important target on this board, and I put it. You can go read it on Insider's board. I'll give this much, or on my tidbits yesterday. I'll give this much here. I'm starting to get a Dawson Merritt feel from that recruitment. I think no matter what happens this summer, or what happens through this official visit season, I'm trending towards I think Nebraska ends up with his signature come signing day in December. That's Titan Davis. But you look at the rest of the class, and it's like, oh, they have 3 commits. Other classes have, so many more. Like, I mean, we're talking about their schools with like 15 plus already right now, But you look at Nebraska and where it's at. I think the run's going to come this summer. I think most of the weird thing is just I don't think Nebraska's personal timeline for when they want to get this cycle, the bulk of this class in, doesn't necessarily align 100% with the plans of a lot of targets in this class. Like Titan Davis is probably making a summer decision, but that's not a guarantee. He's seen programs like Texas and Georgia very recently enter the mix. Like I could see him playing this out into the fall. I could see both offensive line targets, Kelvin Obot and Claude Mpuma, playing this out into the fall. And so what you're seeing this cycle in general, to just give like a bigger picture view between now and December, Nebraska's honing in because of this 105-man limit and because of NIL and because of all these things. Nebraska's really honed in on like this group of 10 to 15, where in years past, it's a group of like 10 to 30 plus, where you just kind of take the best of that group, put them together and make a recruiting class. Now they're solely seems like they're solely dialed in on like, okay, we have these 10 to 15-ish guys we really want in this class. If we miss on them, then we'll set up contingency options. But right now, we've kind of set up our options. And there's certain positions I'm comfortable at. I think they're going to put together a good running back class. I think they're going to put together a good receiver class. I think this aligned class is going to come together. I just need to see how they do a tackle. I'm confident in the linebacker room, and I'm honestly confident in the DB room, and I'm getting there with the D line room. I just need to see them get guys on campus, and I need to see the board expand a little bit beyond Titan Davis and Valdon Sony, because right now those are really the 2 guys that I think Nebraska are actual D-line targets for Nebraska right now. I need to see that board expand a little, but my biggest concerns right now are in the trenches and at receiver. It's new position coach at receiver and at D-line, but outside of that, I think they're going to put together a pretty solid class. It's just going to come together slower and going to be a smaller class than people expect.
And I hope to see him tomorrow. But what are your thoughts on Jaden Warren right now? As let's start with a comp, and then kind of how you've seen the trajectory of what's happened with his recruitment.
Yeah, he's a guy that he got on my radar last track season when he started putting up the times he did, and then you see kind of like the
Because he's
4-1.
Alvin, right? Is he? He's Alvin,
He's
technically.
Alvin, Texas. Yes. Yeah, so that's a new school out there. So that's for those unfamiliar. So Manville back in the day was like the power, and not even back in the day. I'm talking like a decade and a half ish ago. Manville was the power back then, and then that area started growing. So they built Shadow Creek. Shadow Creek won a state or made it to the state championship their first year as a program. They continued to put out prospects and develop. Then Iowa Colony came in out in Alvin, Texas. This is the school that Warren goes to, and so did Randall. Both those programs now are exceptionally talented. That part of Texas is just really blowing up right now. Anyway, they've got a pretty talented quarterback. I think Nebraska's in the mix for as well at 27. But anyway, on Jaden Warren, like he's a guy that blew up as a sophomore a little bit just because of the track times. Then you watch his sophomore junior season, you're like, oh, you're expecting like, okay, guy runs 10.5, runs 21.0-ish in the 200 meter. You're just expecting kind of a straight line speed guy. Then you watch his junior film, it's like, oh, he's got like a release package. Oh, he's breaking off like routes like pretty seamlessly, and he's doing a really good job of creating separation in and out of breaks. Like he does a lot of the little stuff well. And then I got to see him at the All-American Combine this year, where he was one of the best offensive players, if not the best offensive player in attendance, just consistently creating separation at all three levels. Did a really good job going outside of his frame, and then can like physically beat people. He's 6'2" with 10.5 speed, like and closing in on 200 pounds. Like that's a big, strong, fast kid. And so if you're looking for a comp early on, honestly, I couldn't shake it watching his film again this week. He reminds me so much of Matthew Golden, who Dikeel Shorts landed back in the day
Oh,
and
don't
recruited.
say that. I think Golden may end up having the best career out of anybody in this draft.
I'm a big fan of Matthew Golden,
Me
man.
me too. Me
Hey,
too.
listen, I was like, I listen. Come draft day, I'm pulling up the receipts, but there was like I've got in my DMs right now. I've got like read messages to like 10, 15 plus like college player personnel people that I was like, hey, offer this kid like right now. Like, what are you doing? Because there was a long time where it was like Houston, TCU, and that's like really it in his recruitment.
Listen, I fawned over this for how long?
No, I mean all year.
So there's a couple things about him that I like, and I kind of chuckle when I see a lot of people still have him as like wide receiver 3 or 4, some 4 or 5. I'm like, oh, okay. He's a tremendous hands catcher. He's very good in short area burst. He showed better long speed than even I think most people thought he was going to when he timed. And he's tough. He played hurt, which you can't get a lot of wide receivers to do. I I don't know, man. I think he's going to function at a really high level in the NFL.
Yeah, I'm a big fan. He does all the little does the contested catch stuff, can separate, good route runner, consistent hands. Like he's everything you really look
And
for.
he caught a lot of tough balls. Like
Oh yeah.
when it wasn't always rainbows and butterflies getting some of those balls. I was like, fudge, man, nice
Yeah.
toe toucher. Like he just had really good feel for what he was doing.
Yeah, and the national consensus is coming around on this, and it has been since the end of the season. But I mean, you look at Texas last year, like when they were in trouble, they went to him, not Isaiah Bond. Like they didn't go to anyone else on the roster. They went to Matthew Golden.
I know
But
Bond.
but yeah, that's my comp for Jaden Warren. That's who I think is the guy. I just think I think there's some similarities there. And yeah, I've said it. I said it since I saw him in January. Talking to him, I think this is a recruitment where if Nebraska really gets involved and gets him on campus, which they're supposed to do this weekend, they can quickly emerge as the favorite here, just because I'm that confident in Dikeel Shorts, his ability to recruit the Houston area, and knowing the personalities, both sides of this. I think these personalities are really going to mesh, and I think Dana Holgerson is going to do his due diligence as well.
Mm.
Tim, as you kind of look at, you mentioned this being a smaller recruiting class and being a super focused and targeted approach. How much do you think the way they see their current roster developing may impact either sending more offers out or having some offers that are already out become maybe in that uncommittable zone, just based on this guy's maybe a little bit further along than we thought. Maybe we don't need help there versus I'm not sure this guy is going to develop the way we were hoping to. We probably need to bring in another guy.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at I think this is something that people aren't really talking about when they're talking. They blame, hey, it's going to be a smaller class, and they kind of cite the 105 roster man limit and NIL. The other part of this is Nebraska's brought in a ton of young guys over the last few years. Like from a percentage wise, how many just underclassmen are on the roster right now? It's pretty absurd. And obviously there's going to be some cutting to get down to that limit, and there's going to be some moves. But like the DB room, like there's so many young guys in there. Like I think they're going to just take a traditional like 3-4 member like DB room. They could just take 2 or 3 just because of how many bodies are in that room right now. Like, okay, they bring in this freshman class. It's like, oh, Bryson Weber's a little further along. He might be ready by year 2. Tanner Church, a little further along. What if he's ready? Like those are hypotheticals where all of a sudden they can look at the current recruiting class and say, okay, maybe we don't need to swing on this 3-star DB. Maybe we don't need to take, this like this shot here when we have an established guy like a Bryson Weber or a Tanner Church, or like a Rex. Okay, Rex Guthrie is fully healed. Now we have another body there. Like that's where I think this class is going to get affected. Is some of that, like even linebacker right now, like with the groups they put together. It's like, okay, hey, what if Pierce Newberry's a little further than ahead? Then all of a sudden, okay, maybe Rob Dvorak really only needs to address Jack and one middle linebacker instead of trying to go out and get a couple this cycle. Like maybe he just needs to go get one, maybe go all in on like a Jordan Campbell type, and then help Philip Simpson out with bringing some more Jackson.
From a teaching standpoint, well, let me just ask you, kind of an open period, were you confirming, denying, doing something different when you get a chance to see what's going on at practice? Because you were a one-on-ones. Most everybody did one-on-ones last week, right?
Yeah, I spent a good amount of time around the one-on-ones, but I spent a lot of time with the D line just because I wanted to see where body types are at and where bodies are at. I also kept a really close eye, and I noted it last week. I kept a really close eye on Phil Snow with the young DBs. Like I thought that was just instructive and a good insight into what this program is becoming and the developmental aspect of all of this. We've seen and heard the talk about it. That's like right there on display. Again, it's when you send your kid to Nebraska, within the first 2 weeks on campus, he's going to be getting hands-on direction from Phil Snow, a former NFL defensive coordinator who's had high success as a defensive coordinator at multiple college stops and has a vast history across multiple defenses of developing defensive backs. And then you get to Nebraska and you're a freshman like a Bryson Weber or Tanner Church, and within the first 2 weeks, you're getting developed by that guy. Like that's pretty cool. That's something that you can put on the recruiting trail. I was keeping a close eye on that, and then body types. Like I think coming off of that, the biggest thing that sticks with me, the line is starting to look like a Big Ten, up top of the Big Ten, top of the SEC type offensive line. And I mean, like Riley Van Poppel's in really good shape. If you just take the top 3 of the D line right now, or hypothetical top 3, Riley Van Poppel, Keona Davis, Williams, and Bernari, from a size standpoint and from these like off the bus standpoint, they look like it's top of the Big Ten looking good, man. Like they look really good. I was specifically impressed with the strides that Keona Davis made. Like he looks like a tank right now.
Well, that's my guy, so I'm excited to hear you say that. So as you kind of look at the body transformations of some of the top of the rooms, how do you think that affects their ability? You mentioned how that goes to the recruiting trail, but like, what's the pitch there? If you've got Keona Davis looking like he does, but he hasn't actually produced really at that level yet, like how does that play with recruits at this point? Or is it still kind of a probably more 27s after he does something in the fall?
It's probably more 27, just pitching him on that. But I think, from a pitch standpoint, I think Nebraska can just kind of cite what happened the last year with Ty Robinson and Ash Hallmar, like the development of Ty under this staff and in general, like the amount of rotation they do defensively. I think Nebraska's never going to have problems on the defensive side of the ball and at wide receiver, pitching guys on play time, because the proof is in the pudding. Like they show how much they rotate, how many different guys get snaps, and how, like offensively, there's enough to go around. And I think they're going to show that this year. Defensively, I think it's also like hey, you have an opportunity to shine here, and you can also win. Like there's plenty of proof over the past couple of years of guys coming into the program and winning over playing time, or guys coming into the program, increasing their role, maybe not even being a starter, but moving on and doing productive things at the next level. Like there's examples of that, and there's also examples of the staff sticking by guys through tough times. sticking by guys through injuries and all of that. Like, I don't really have a problem from a recruiting pitch standpoint at this point.
TV, let me get you out of this. It's Nebraska. It seems like, and I could be fast forwarding. Portal's getting ready to come open next week, right?
Yes.
You get the sense that the writing is on the wall for blank amount of guys, in your opinion, at this point.
Ooh, that one's tough. Just off the top of my head,
over or under 10?
I think it's under 10. I think it's under 10 right now. Just because and I was thinking about this very recently. When you look at that number, the guys they kept around and all of that, do you think a former walk-on, or I guess technically current walk-on, has a better shot of making the roster than maybe one of those scholarship guys from like 2-3 years ago we haven't talked about in a while? Because I think they do. I think some of these walk-ons,
I think there's a couple that come to mind.
Yeah, like the way Rule talks about the walk-ons, the way Rule talks about that bottom 10, like the culture raisers, like the Roman Manginis and those guys. But like, I think a Caden Erdentrock, like that's a guy that's probably going to stick on the roster.
There's a couple that come to mind, and I don't know. So just take this with a grain of salt. Number one, Gage Stinger.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not a walk-on deal, but Gage Stinger's a guy that I think is going to find his way into it. Danny King is another guy at tight end that I could see. He's just that room. I think guys just get better in that room. So if you're a guy that goes to work every day, Sat's going to get you right. Like he's very, very underappreciated. And you look at what's happened with that tight end room in the last year and a half. Hard to complain with anything Coach Satterfield's done. Outside of the OC, all that talk.
Mm-hmm.
As a tight ends coach, you should have zero problems.
Yeah, I was going to say, as far as like, we don't have time to have that conversation today, but we're going to have a conversation about Marcus Satterfield, the position coach, soon. Because talking again, they had the number 127 tight end this past weekend. The way that guy talked about Marcus Satterfield, it's like, whoa, man, like that's like.
Listen, Tim, for a year, man, do you just log on to the Homer Network? And I'm like, no, I'm just telling you, on a staff like that, you need Marcus Satterfield. You just do. You just.
We'll see what happens. Like I think people need to see with Heinrich, but I'm pretty confident Heinrich's going to have a good fall.
No, you're exactly right.
That's our guy. Tim Verghese, inside Nebraska. Tim, we appreciate it as always. Have a good weekend.
Yes, sir. You too. Appreciate y'all.